To all of our Facebook viewers, this is Michael Clark. We are outside of the Petal Police Department where we are waiting on Tyler Shows for a court appearance and an arrest today. We understand that a judge has signed an arrest warrant. Mr. Shows is a former Petal school teacher who has been accused of sex crimes involving children. We told you this week that he was set to have a probable cause hearing tomorrow, but it is our understanding that he and his attorney have waived that right so a judge can go ahead and sign a probable cause warrant for an arrest. And it is our understanding that Mr. Shows, through his attorney, will be turning himself in so that he can be booked on those charges. Earlier this week, we told you that he was facing accusations of touching a child for lustful purposes, as well as a charge of dissemination of explicit material. It is our understanding that bond has been set on those two charges of touching a child for lustful purposes at $50,000 each and $25,000 for the dissemination charge. A probable cause hearing is a right that is afforded to certain persons under Mississippi law who are in a position of public trust, such as police officers, sheriff's deputies, or teachers who have an extra layer of protection from the law so that a judge can determine if probable cause exists before signing an arrest warrant. Again, it is our understanding in this case that Mr. Shows and his attorney have waived that right. And so once that was waived, a judge was able to go ahead and sign that warrant. So at this point, we are waiting on Mr. Shows to be processed in the next steps of the judicial system. Again, this is at Petal Police Department's headquarters, waiting for former Petal teacher Tyler Shows. He's no longer with the Petal School District. We know that when we reached out to officials with Petal Schools around the end of March, we were told that he was no longer with the district. There were not details made available at that time about his exit, whether he resigned or was terminated, but we know that he was no longer with the district as of late March. Petal Schools have not made a whole lot of comments about this, as it is under investigation and has been under investigation for quite some time. Typically, in a case like this, the Petal School District, this is Mr. Shows pulling up right here. This is Mr. Shows pulling up right to the outside. Mr. Shows, do you have anything to say about the charges against you? Mr. Shows, do you have anything to say about the charges? That is Tyler Shows, who's just entered the Municipal Police Department here in Petal. So at this point, we expect him to begin the process of talking with the officers, receiving the paperwork for the next steps in that process. It should be a few minutes before he comes back out again. It is our understanding that he will be booked and processed into the Forest County Jail on these charges. Not a lot of information has been released at this point about the alleged victims, ages, what may have transpired, but we do know that he again is facing two charges of touching a child for lustful purposes and dissemination of explicit material. That dissemination charge is a misdemeanor, and the touching of a child for lustful purposes charges are both felonies. So at this point, we are still waiting on him to come out of the Petal Police Department headquarters for the booking process that we understand will be at the Forest County Jail. Petal Police are expected to share some details about this investigation a little bit later today, being that this case is still under investigation and involves minors. We don't expect there to be a lot of details that are publicly released at this time, although they will certainly have to share some of the information about the allegations that led to the probable cause findings signed by the judge today. A few minutes ago, you did just see Mr. Showles get dropped off here at the front of the police department and walk in. I did ask him upon his arrival if he had anything to say about the charges against him. He remained silent as he walked into the front of the police department, and at that point shut the door. So again, at this point, we are waiting on him to come out. You see the side here where it says prisoner transport. We expect him to get into law enforcement custody to be processed and booked at the Forest County Jail. It's our understanding through sources and officials that bond has been set for these charges for $125,000 for all three. So at this point, it will be up to Mr. Showles' legal representation and him about the bonding process and what takes place once he is booked and processed. Again, this was supposed to culminate in a probable cause hearing in Forest County Circuit Court tomorrow until the attorney and Mr. Showles determined to waive that right to a hearing. And if you're just joining us again, that probable cause hearing is a right afforded to people in public trust in Mississippi law, such as teachers, law enforcement officers, so that a judge has the ability to consider the evidence that law enforcement has in a case and determine if probable cause exists to sign an arrest warrant. We received a tip about this investigation at some point in March. In fact, I was one of the journalists who was making calls about that early on in the process. I know a lot of members of the public expressed frustrations over not being told a lot of the information at that time, even though this was something that was certainly being talked about in the town, and people within the school system, had called us about the allegations, but at that time there were no charges that had officially been filed. It was all still under investigation. The Petal Police Department did tell us that search warrants were signed and should be executed, and that is again a part of the evidentiary process to where law enforcement can determine what evidence exists to share with the court and the judge to determine if probable cause exists. But again, that hearing waived, so at that point the judge had the ability to sign the arrest warrant, which we understand happened today. We're going to hang tight right here for Mr. Showles to be transported. Not exactly sure a timeline of how long the process will take inside, so could be a little while. We appreciate you hanging with us. Again, we did see Mr. Showles arrive here at the Petal Police Department. I believe that we saw his attorney. I have not been able to confirm his representation. We did receive a name of a possible attorney. I reached out to that attorney the other day for a comment about the probable cause hearing, but that attorney did not respond to our request. So at this time, until I can talk to the attorney, we're going to refrain from speculating on who the attorney may be, although I can tell you I did just see within the last 20 minutes before Mr. Showles' arrival someone pull up who appeared to be a representative for Mr. Showles. So at this point, we want to make sure that we give Mr. Showles and or his attorney an opportunity to respond to the charges against him, but not had an opportunity to speak with that attorney just yet. And if you're just joining us, we are outside of the Petal Police Department waiting for Tyler Showles to be booked and transported to jail after being charged with 2 counts of touching a child for lustful purposes and dissemination of explicit material.
places. So by being a subscriber, we actually save money by utilizing discounts at various restaurants and retail stores. So it's an added value, and I want to thank y'all for subscribing. You see that badge there at the bottom with a heart in it, you're not a subscriber. If you think you are, you see that heart, you're not. Just click that. See the school meeting, what I do, so I can bring y'all the news. What forward covers the school subscribers.
We've had a comment on Facebook asking about why Petal School District has not made a comment about this. It's pretty typical that a district would not make a comment until there is a legal proceeding. We will certainly be reaching out to them today, to ask for an updated statement. At this point, it's unclear, at least officially, where Mr. Showles may have come into contact with these alleged victims in this case. We do know that he was a 5th grade math teacher at Petal Upper Elementary School as recently as the early part of this year. He actually has been in the news in the past. He won a prestigious national award called the Milken Educator Award for his work as a teacher in the classroom. He received a $25,000 award from this national group for his efforts and was touted by the school district for all of his accomplishments in the classroom. There was a big celebration. We were there for that. You can find that story on our website from 2022, I believe, when he won this award. May have been 2023, forgive me for the date there, but he is known to people in this community, certainly shock for some who have learned about what he's accused of in this case. We did receive a number of phone calls from members of the community asking if we had heard about this investigation as early as March of this year. That's when we began starting to ask questions, and unfortunately or fortunately, a part of this job is that some of the conversations we have with officials are off record until there is officially something to say on the record. And while we understood that there was an ongoing investigation, and we certainly shared that as soon as these officials were willing to make public statements, it would be irresponsible to report any findings that weren't on the record at the appropriate time. So we've been following this since March. Really started to culminate here earlier in April when we did get some public statements from the police chief here in Petal that there was an investigation involving Tyler Showles for what was described at the time as inappropriate conduct with students. And at that time he shared that search warrants had been signed to be executed. Now, we had discussed as a newsroom trying to put in a public records request for the returns on that search warrant. Certainly if a law enforcement agency executes a search warrant and something is found, that would need to be disclosed. But there was some confusion, I believe, amongst officials as to whether that was a part of public record to be shared with us before any arrest or indictment. So we do not know what may have been found when those search warrants were executed. So hopefully we'll learn more today. We understand that Petal Police are going to give us an opportunity to hear from them. We hope that they will take questions so that we can learn a little bit more about these accusations. Typically in a case like this, especially when someone works at a school district. And in this case, the Petal schools have their own police department that can conduct investigations. There is an internal investigation first, and then the results of that internal investigation are turned over to law enforcement so that the findings can be reviewed by law enforcement officials and the court as they go about their official law enforcement investigation. Not exactly sure the timeline of how long the school district's investigation lasted and what may have been discovered as a result of that investigation, but again, we do know that law enforcement began doing their side of the investigation sometime towards late March, early April. Again, still waiting on Mr. Shows to exit the rear of this building. We did see him arrive at the front. If you scroll through this live video, maybe about 10 to 15 minutes ago, you will see our interaction with Mr. Shows as he arrived. He was dropped off by someone on the side of the law enforcement complex here, wearing a red shirt. He walked in to the front of the police department. We did ask him if he had anything to say about the charges against him. He did not say anything. Walked inside and closed the door behind him. We hope to be able to ask again upon his exit from the facility about the charges. Certainly, in this case, want to give him and any other defendant opportunity to share their side of a story. Foundations of journalism and what we do. There's always an opportunity for a defendant or an attorney to share their side of the story. More often than not, in criminal cases like this, defense attorneys and defendants wait until court and the proper venue to share their side of the story. So that may happen here. If you'll bear with us for just a second, we're going to put this camera on a tripod so that hopefully we can get a steady shot for you once Mr. Shows does come out here.
He's also charged with false confession. But it's back to the state law. If you're in a position of authority or trust and you have sex with someone who is in that authority or trust, if they had sex with a 16 or 17, that's not fine. What's the photograph from a 16 or 17? That's child exploitation. Is that not crazy? I mean, it's no sense. The logic here is crazy. State law needs to be changed. And that's what might be happening. Still, or the judiciary, I wish they would. Sending a picture to a 16 or 17, so we have to be in a position of authority. Say someone who's 25, take a picture of yourself to a 16 or 17. That is a misdemeanor crime. There's up to 6 months in jail for sexual interruptions, or that person has sex with and doesn't send a picture of themselves, or doesn't take a picture of themselves, for that matter, then they committed a crime of sex. And that is the law is that it's sexual interruption. So when is the 6 months to so that has a statute where if you are 8 years older than 16 or 17, before the age is 16, unless you're 8 years older than that person. At that point, it's a crime. And that's really what I think is Chicago, Mississippi. And Joey Philbin, and I got Mr. Senator Philbin and Cam and others. You put a bill in this judiciary deed for a 28-year-old, to be a felon, sexual sex with a 16 or 17-year-old. And it did not make it out of the case. And one of the senators, even said that basically the lowest age for child exploitation is 16, 16, 17. This is like crazy. I'm going to publish the video. Now that all this is
Again, if you're just joining us, we're waiting on Tyler Shows, the former Petal Upper Elementary School teacher, to come out of the police department after he turned himself in today for several charges related to accusations of inappropriate behavior with children. Again, Mr. Shows was supposed to have a probable cause hearing tomorrow in Forest County Circuit Court, but Mr. Shows and his representation waived that right. That probable cause hearing, again, is afforded to people in public trust under Mississippi state law, so anyone such as a teacher or a law enforcement officer would have that right to be able to go to court to listen to the accusations against him and contest or cross-examine the evidence that would be presented to a judge simply to determine probable cause. Again, that hearing tomorrow would not have been a trial, would not have been anything like that. It's simply to determine if probable cause existed to sign an arrest warrant. And in this position, Mr. Shows and his representation decided to waive that right. And so once that was done, there was the ability for the judge in this case to go ahead and sign an arrest warrant, which has happened today. So Tyler Shows is facing 2 counts of touching a child for lustful purposes, both felonies, and 1 count of dissemination of sexual explicit material. That is a misdemeanor. It is our understanding that the bond for all 3 of those charges in total is $125,000. Here we go. Here's Mr. Shows. Mr. Shows, anything to say? Anything to say about the charges against you? Did you touch children inappropriately, Mr. Shows? What do you say to parents who put you in a position of trust?
Award, Mr. Shows?
Do you have anything to say, Mr. Shows? Parents trusted you around children. Do you have anything to say to them?
Will you keep your milking award, Mr. Shows?
Mr. Shows is now in the back of a police car here, where he will be escorted to the Forest County Jail. We did ask him if he had anything to say about the charges against him. You just saw there that he did not make any statements and is now on his way to the Forest County Detention Center, where he will be formally booked on those charges. We hope to have an opportunity to speak with the Petal Police Department here this afternoon about this ongoing investigation. I want to stress that it is still an ongoing investigation, and even though we do have an arrest here today, that is not the end of this investigation. Depending on what else is uncovered through that investigation, there could be additional updates in the future. But at this point, Tyler Showes, former Petal Upper Elementary School teacher, has been arrested and is in law enforcement custody on his way to the Forest County Jail. We expect to have an update from Petal Police here this afternoon. We also hope to ask questions from Mr. Showes' attorney. And so if we get those opportunities, we will come back on here live to share that information with you. We'll also have a recap tonight on WDAM 7 News at 5 and 6 o'clock. But for now, we're going to go ahead and get into position so that we can talk with police. And once we do that, we will come back live and share that information with you.